Welcome, Brad Yates, to our EFTAP chat with Jenny Johnston and Dr. Linda Wilson. Great to have you here. And we had you down under in Australia for the EFTAP dinner. And I was privileged to spend a day with you and Christy. And it's really great to have someone who's so authentic and down to earth be part of what we're doing here with the EFTAP interviews and just who you are in the world of EFT. So welcome and thank you for being you.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to folks, just like I appreciated the opportunity to hang out with the EFTAPers last time I was down there.
Yeah, and you're coming back.
I am coming back. I'll be down under again in November. Yeah. All around the country this time.
Yeah, all around the country. Okay. So, well, even before we get into that, tell us all about that first. Before we get into the rest of the interview, tell us about where you're going to be.
So the plan is we're going to be starting out with a retreat, a 3-day retreat in Byron Bay.
Oh, wow.
So I'll be there with Jesse Reimers and Ben Lee. So Ben Lee is a musician who's from Australia, lives in Los Angeles now, and Jesse is this huge star in the essential oils world in network marketing. And so I met her while I was in Australia, and she said that my work has been really beneficial to her success. So while we were down there, she said, "Can we partner on something?" And we did a tele class together. We did a live event in Salt Lake City together. And then she said, "Okay, now here's what I want to do. I want to do a full retreat, and I want to go all the way around the country."
Wow.
Like, okay, twist my arm.
That's so exciting.
Yeah, very exciting. I'm excited because I've loved every time I've been down in Australia. And it's been unfortunate that I haven't been able to get over to Perth yet. So this time we're going to go to Perth. We're going to go to Adelaide, which I haven't been to. And we are going to Cairns, which I haven't been to.
Oh, wow.
So, and Brisbane, Melbourne, Sydney, which I have been to.
Wow, nationwide. That's really awesome.
So coast Brad, to coast.
So maybe, Brad, if you could give us that information, we can offer that to our members as well, so that if they happen to want to join you, which I'm sure they will, they've got the information they need.
And all of that information, as always, will be on my website, tapwithbrad.com. So on the events page, there's already a listing. The retreat in Byron Bay is already open for registration. We're still settling the details of the different venues around the country.
And so that's November-ish?
November.
The whole of November and a bit more?
From the first weekend of November is the retreat, and then we'll be wrapping up November 20th, getting me back home in time for Thanksgiving.
Wow, you're doing all those cities in that time. Wow. Okay. Awesome.
It's like being a rock star on tour.
Yeah, exactly.
You'll be right. You'll be able to stop over in Adelaide. You'll be able to pop a couple of litres of red wine in your bag, and that'll get you through.
Wine country.
Not that we're advocating drinking as
not at all,
because we have something better than that.
Yes, it is not a food source, peoples. It is not a food source.
So, Brad, how did you get into EFT? I know you're a hypnotherapist, as am I, but tell us how you found EFT.
Yeah, so as some people know, I actually started as an actor. And I was in Los Angeles. I traveled the world doing theater. And, I even did a show out in Bendigo.
Wow.
First, and in Melbourne, in Victoria Arts Center. First time I was in Australia, many, many, many years ago. And went to Hollywood to be a movie star, met a woman, fell in love. And when we got married and had a child on the way, I thought, I should probably have a backup career.
Plan B.
And so I trained to become a hypnotherapist. And after a couple of years of doing that, I realized this is really my calling, doing personal development work. I loved it. And so we left Los Angeles, and through some other hypnotherapists, I kept hearing about tapping and energy work and this energy psychology conference in Las Vegas. So I signed up for a full day training with this guy named Gary Craig.
Mm-hmm.
And what really sold me was he had us tapping on chocolate. And I know I'm preaching to the choir here. Everybody knows what it can do. But, I was totally new to this. And I was a bit of a chocoholic at the time. And after a few minutes of, just a few moments of tapping, I couldn't eat the chocolate. And I don't think I ate chocolate for 2 years after that. Mm-hmm. It had just cleared so much. And that same weekend, I met Carol Look and have been friends with her ever since. And so little by little after that weekend, I started introducing tapping into my hypnotherapy sessions until eventually they became tapping sessions where I still do a little bit of guided imagery at the end. Mm. So that was back in 2000. I started that. And then around 2003, 2004, I started putting some audios online. And then 2007, YouTube was fairly new. And I thought, hey, wouldn't it be cool if I came up with a little tapping video that people could start their day with? And I'll call it Tap of the Morning. and that was all I ever intended to do, just that one video. And I had no plans of what I was going to do with this. And then about 6 months later, I thought, I should probably have a video to end the day, and I'll call it Tap of the Evening. Mm-hmm. And then I'm done. Mm-hmm. And then a few months later, I had another idea, and then another. Now I've got 750, I think, up there. So.
Wow. And how do you come up with the ideas of what to tap on?
By being human and having issues and going, oh, this is frustrating. Hey, that would make a really good video.
Do you ever sit there going, even though I can't think of what to tap for today?
Oh, I have so many lists. It's like constantly throughout the day, it's like, I should write that down. And I've forgotten as many ideas as I've come up with. And I have long lists that, so then it comes to a day where I'm going to shoot some videos, and I'll just go back and go, all right, what grabs me today? What do I feel like tapping on? Oh, okay, I'll do this one, then I'll do this one.
Mm. Great idea.
Sometimes they come from suggestions from other people, but most of them are just things that just strike me. It's like, oh, I think that would be really helpful to folks.
Mm-hmm. So you'll do a whole lot at once or a few at once and then stagger them?
It varies. Sometimes I'll do one. Sometimes I'll do up to, I think 10 is the most that I've done. It's like just squeezing them in and going, okay, I'll get a bunch of them done at one time.
Yeah. Because I was going to say, how do you do that when you're traveling and everything else? And you've been doing a bit of traveling lately. So tell us about your travels and where you've been.
Yeah. So over the holidays, I did workshops in Dublin and London, and I've done that every 2 years since 2009. I always go back. I studied in London when I was an actor, so it always feels like my second home. I just love it there, and it's actually where my biggest fan base is. So I always do really well there. And then I love Dublin, and then from Dublin went over to Prague and Paris, and that's the first time I've done events on the continent. So that was really cool.
Yeah, wow,
fantastic. So Brad, in all that time, have you really noticed the shift and the change, the groundswell, really, with energy psychology in general? Have you noticed that there is just this sort of explosive growth over that time? You've been doing this for a long time now.
Thanks, Lynn. You make me feel old. Well, let me tell you, back in the day, nobody knew about tapping. It was... Still an actor. So, it's interesting because it's hard to see sometimes. I mean, I notice it when I look at numbers like how many people are following me on YouTube. Mm-hmm. I wish I could get as many people on my newsletter list and on Facebook as I get on YouTube.
Don't we all? Mm-hmm.
So I see those numbers going up, but it's hard to say because, I go out, and so the people that I tend to meet are people who already know about tapping.
Yeah.
So it's hard for me to see the overall shift, because I still meet tons of people, in my day-to-day life who have no clue.
Yeah.
So I haven't. What's the critical mass has not. It's not happened in my day-to-day. I haven't seen in my day-to-day life.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just really important for new tappers in particular, because often people sort of think, oh, there's a saturation. And that's just so not the case, right?
No.
And there's no such thing as scarcity when it comes to teaching people this tool.
Well, and there's no such thing as scarcity, period.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely not saturation. There's over 7 billion people on the planet.
Mm.
Yeah.
And even though, you can go to an EFTAP meeting, you can see all of those who are there. It's like, there just aren't enough of us as it is to service all of the people who could benefit from tapping.
Mm-hmm.
The amazing thing with technology and the internet is that you can have clients around the world. I don't see clients in person anymore. All of my clients I talk to by conference call, and they're all around the world.
Mm.
So you are not limited to the people in your community. And you may prefer to do that. I know there's a lot of coaches and practitioners who prefer to have somebody right there in the room with them for whatever the way they do the processes, but you're not limited to that. So, and I also believe if you feel called to do this work, I truly don't believe in a cruel God who would say, okay, here's my plan. I'm going to give you a calling, but I'm not going to give you enough people to use it. There are more than enough people out there for you to do what you feel called to do, and for you to be appropriately and abundantly provided for in that work.
Mm.
That's just
Fantastic.
my belief.
Yeah.
Mm.
Great message.
I totally agree. What do you do what is your advice to new practitioners who have just certified and who are trying to find their feet out there in the world? What's your advice to them?
Well, clear your own blocks because the opportunities are there, but we will stop them. Not because we're bad or stupid, as I often say during tapping, but because there are parts of us that go, yeah, I really want to do this, but another part of us is going, no, I don't. The extent to which we don't have what we say we want is the extent to which we're resisting it. So as you, there are all kinds of things you can do. I mean, when I first started as a hypnotherapist, I joined the Chamber of Commerce, and I was going to networking meetings and things like that. And there are opportunities to do it. So you want to take those actions that other people have used. It's the old expression, success leaves clues. Find out what other people are doing.
Exactly.
But in the process, be clearing any resistance that you might have, and just kind of assume that it might be there. Because as you clear that resistance, opportunities are going to show up. I cleared my resistance and YouTube showed up. I manifested YouTube. So who knows what you might manifest.
Thanks, Brad.
Thanks,
You're welcome.
I totally agree because
I manifested EFTAP so that I could have a lovely dinner.
You did. There was something that Craig and Alina also said about clearing your money blocks, because often people think, okay, well, what I'm doing isn't working. I want to do something I'm more passionate about, but then they're not really successful in that as well. And it's because their belief system around financial success follows them through whatever they do. And so that sort of thing really needs to be cleared. And I love your analogy about Michelangelo, which I see you've got in the background. So give us your analogy about that again.
So Michelangelo said, I have David's on all four walls. There's David's all around my office. So, because I just love it. I think it's the perfect analogy for what we do with tapping. Now, Michelangelo said, the statue is already there, perfect inside the marble. I just had to chip away what didn't belong to reveal the masterpiece inside. The happiest, healthiest, most successful version of us is already there inside. And we're just tapping away what doesn't belong to reveal that magnificence. So these fears about being seen, these fears about having money that we're not supposed to have because nice people don't have money, or whatever it is, that's all just extra marble that we think is protecting us. And we want to tap that away and clear that so that we can be open, so that we can share our gifts as fully as possible. You know, when I'm tapping with people on money blocks, and I'm starting up another series of my money magnet course, when I'm tapping that away for folks, I'm not really that interested in whether people have money. I mean, great if they do. What I'm interested in is them sharing their gifts. And just like you said, and what Craig and Alina were saying, is that the money blocks will stop us from sharing our gifts as fully as we can. And that to me is far more important. It's like, I want you to get rid of all that money block so that you'll go out and share your gifts. And then you can allow the money to come too, which is great. I'm very happy for them to have that too. But the reason I'm here is so that people are sharing who they can be and what they can do to make the world a better place.
Exactly.
So Brad, would you say then that if things are not showing up, whether it be money, whether it be clients, whether it be a place to actually practice from, etc., that's your clue that there's some block happening there, and or a lack of action?
Yeah, and a lack of action is because we're blocked.
Yes.
You know, it's like we know. You know, we'll often say, "I don't know what to do." That is the biggest lie we tell ourselves, because we forget about this magic little thing called Google. You can go on Google and say, how do I, and you're going to get a million different answers. So information on what to do. So we use that, I don't know what to do, as a block, because part of us is afraid to do it. So it's the fear of having money, the fear, you know, often we'll say the fear of failure, but more often than not, it's fear of success. And so, yeah, to the extent that we're not experiencing what we say we want is the extent to which we're resisting it. And so it's looking at, okay, why might I be resisting this? What am I afraid of will happen if I take this action?
And I think also how we compare ourselves to others. It's like, well, so-and-so does that better than me, so I can't. Or, you know, we're such an animal of comparison in the world of what we think successful people are. And so we're always comparing ourselves to others, and that can often stop. And so it's about, where did that comparison come from? Where did my beliefs and values come from?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're using that as an excuse, knock it off.
Exactly.
Because what if Mick Jagger and Keith Richards had said, you know, the Beatles are so good, we really shouldn't start a rock band.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, there's plenty of room for, you know, and we get into I don't see it as, there's no competition. There's no competition here because, you know, for one, people listen to different music. None of us, you know, it's like the Rolling Stones don't have to beat the Beatles because someone's going to only listen to one musician. You know, there are people watching my videos, they're watching other people's videos too. It's not like I need to make sure that no one else watches anybody else's videos. I love when Bob Proctor talks about, you know, if you think of abundance as a pie and you're so afraid that, you know, someone else's slice of the pie is too big and mine's too small, and then I feel bad because if I want a bigger slice of the pie, then it's going to make someone else's smaller. And just imagine a bigger pie.
Exactly.
The piece of the pie gets bigger by the pie getting bigger, because again, there's over 7 billion people on the planet. There is no, you know, for all of you, none of you can be so successful that any of the three of us are going to lose out. And none of the three of us can be so successful that we can block anybody else from being successful. It's just not going to happen. Because, and we might tell ourselves that, and other people will tell us that too. It's like, oh yeah, you know, so-and-so is doing all this, and so I can't. You're just telling yourselves lies, not because you're bad or stupid, not to beat up on you for that. Just recognize, oh, I've fallen into that trap. But step out of that trap because the opportunities are there.
Yeah, and it's so important to bring you into your business, just like you do with your background of hypnotherapy and your background of acting, you know.
Going to clown college, you know, it all figures into the
That's
mix.
your flavor, yeah. That's your flavor.
And some people are going to watch my videos and it's like, oh, wow, I really resonate with Brad. And some people don't care for my videos. And that's fine. There are going to be people... There are going to be people who are going to watch the way that you tap, and they're going to resonate with the way you do it more than they will resonate with anybody else. There is an audience for you, and you are going to be the best practitioner for a certain amount of people.
Yep. That's what I like is you're attracting your tribe, basically, you know, the ones that resonate with you, and we all have a different energy resonance as well. So it's always there that your tribe's out there, and just be you and go ahead and do what you love doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And Brad, so there's times when you're a newbie when you really want to throw in the towel because you just don't feel like you're getting traction or you don't have the support around you. When you were going through that process yourself, what did you do to support yourself? Who did you bring in? Who did you seek out to really help you to move through some of the things that perhaps presented themselves in terms of the growth of you as a person and your business?
Yeah. You know, there were definitely... For one, I was moonlighting at this while I had a regular job. You know, you take care of body and soul in whatever way you need to. And, you know, I reached out to different people. I said, the day after I took the class with Gary Craig, I met Carol Look. And so we had stayed friends. So, you know, I was in touch with her. And then I just kept trusting that I was onto something, and, you know, continued to clear my own stuff. And as I cleared my own stuff, opportunities showed up, you know, and suddenly I had this chance to do a course with Dr. Joe Vitale just before he was in the movie The Secret.
Yeah, good friend to make.
Yeah. You know, and there are so many good friends to make out there.
Exactly.
And you just, again, you clear your blocks to that and clear those fears and totally, you know, honor that part of you that is trying to take care of you, that's trying to say, go back and play it safe. But trust that if this is what you really feel called to do, then you gotta trust that. And I mean, that's what's so great, that with EFTAP, you've got a network of support there. So I didn't have anything quite like that. So that's really a fantastic thing that you've created there, to have that support and the resources and people you can, you know, go to and say, oh man, I'm really frustrated. Oh, what do we do about that?
And that's so true. You know, even like Linda's done some talks at some different bookstores, and I've gone, who was your contact? Like, how did that go for you? And, you know, it helps me in me wanting to move into that area. You know, we can always ask people who have done something that we haven't done, how did you do that? And how did it work out for you? And they can say, oh, that was a flop, don't try that. Or, you know, try this person. And, you know, I've also gone to people like Steve Wells as a coach, who self-published, because my first book I didn't self-publish. And so for my second book that I self-published, I sought coaching from Steve. and people who have done things that I haven't done before, I would always go to them and say, well, who did you use? You know, some of the people that Craig and Alina use for their VAs, etc., I've used them as well, because why reinvent the wheel when other people have already done it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for the most part, people are going to be generous about sharing resources, you know, because there isn't competition. It's like, hey, no, here, use this, take advantage of this, you know, go and, you know, here's who I spoke with at such and such, and this and that.
Yep.
I think we forget too that in Australia now there is a number of really senior practitioners, as in experienced, having done it for many years. And, you know, we tend to look overseas for our mentorship and our leadership and those kinds of things. And, you know, for new EFTAPers or new practitioners out there, there are a number of incredibly well experienced, fantastic practitioners in Australia as well, and we will be interviewing some of them, won't we, Jenny, which is really exciting.
Like
as well
Dr.
as
Pete
all
Stapleton.
Yes. And
Rockstar.
Steve Wells as well. Yeah.
And Steve Wells, yes.
And Steve, I mean, Steve's, you know, since the beginning has been one of the top tappers. And David, but I think David's is not as active now. So
yeah, and you know, people like you and Steve that are regulars on the World Tapping Summit. So you know, there's something to be said in that for a start, that you are recognised as people who are well known and doing wonderful things in the tapping world. So
thank you.
Congrats.
Thank you very much.
Linda, did you have a question?
Brad, yes, I do. What do you do on your bad days, Brad? How do you take care
I'm sorry, my what?
Your less than optimal days.
Your less than optimal days, yes.
When I'm smart about it, I do a lot of tapping. You know, and when I'm not sure what to say, I'll go and watch videos. Sometimes I watch my own videos. Sometimes I'll watch other people's videos. You know, and I do what I can to practice self-care, getting some exercise. You know, it's and at the same time forgiving myself for having less than optimal days, because sometimes I do a bi-weekly radio show on News for the Soul, and my friend Nicole Whitney, you know, she's always, whenever we do the show, she goes, how are you doing? Fantastic. She goes, do you ever have a bad day? And it's like, in public? No, of course not. Because there's this idea, well, you know, if you do all this tapping and you're, you know, so well known for tapping, you probably, you know, everything's perfect all the time. We're human, you know. And so it's and I think there's that pressure on you know, if we know this simple thing that is the solution to so many things that ail us, you know, how, you know, we're a fraud if we're not doing perfectly all the time. And no, you're a fraud if you're pretending that you're superhuman and godlike and not subject to human emotion. Because, you know, I try to be careful when I'm talking about tapping and talking about things like anger and sadness, and so often they're called negative emotions, and I try not to say they're negative emotions, because I don't think there are negative emotions. There are uncomfortable emotions, and we don't want to spend too much time in them. But if we didn't want to spend time in them at all, we wouldn't have tearjerker movies or scary movies or things like that. People, because we come to the human experience to have a human experience. And that means experiencing the whole spectrum of emotions. You know, emotional freedom technique is so that we're not trapped by those emotions. You know, we can go and we can visit them and go, oh, this is what it feels like to be this. Okay, I want to be free now. So it's just recognizing, okay, you know what? And there are times where it's like, you know what? I'm going to funk it. I don't want to tap on it. I'm going to be pissy for a little bit.
Yeah.
And it's that contrast, isn't it, Brad? The contrast is actually really important for us to feel as though, yeah, I am a human being. I will have those days that are tougher than others. I am going to spit the dummy and throw the tantrum and roll on the ground screaming for a little bit. And I know from my own experience with tapping is that those periods have gotten shorter, but they certainly have not disappeared.
Yeah. And I think that makes us better practitioners. Because if we come to someone and they're going, you know, I know you told me to tap, but I was in a bad mood. You know, it's like, otherwise we'd be like, well, you're just not doing what I told you. If you did it like I always told you, you would never have a bad day again. It's like, you know, to be able to relate and go, yeah, I totally get it. There are going to be days like this. But as you said, when those times get fewer and further between and shorter, but totally recognizing, because otherwise, we're teaching people that they're failing if they're not, you know, oh, the first time you learn to tap, everything should be perfect from the rest of your life, or you know, moving onwards. It's like,
yeah,
it just gets better and better, faster and faster.
And I think we get to manage our own reactions to what's going on a little better, but we're always going to have ups and downs, and trying to find that balance.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Absolutely. Brad, do you enjoy getting outside? Does the environment play an important role for you? Do you have special places that you go? You don't have to tell us where they are, but or you could. But does nature?
And everyone's going to show up there and bother me. Melbourne is my special place.
I bet you say that.
Well played, sir. Well played.
I almost, because it's Zoom, I almost put up my backdrop so I could have Melbourne in the background. But you know, I mean, my office is certainly one of them. It's my, you know, I have a detached office, so it's my own space, so I can decorate it however I want and not bother my wife, because I always put so many things up, and she's like, stimulus overload. It's like, yeah, but I like having stuff up. So, you know, it's my little sanctuary. You know, when I can get out in nature, that's always good. You know, and then traveling and going to different places. I love to get out, and you know, that's why I love doing the live events, is getting out and meeting people. You know, it's you know, I love making the videos, but it's a little bit lonely.
Yeah.
Video camera. So to go out and actually tap with people live is very energizing.
I think that's such an important point, because a lot of people do have their home office, like I do myself, and it's important to connect with others, you know, and create, like I have a meetup group, I've got that on tonight once a month, but to go out and do talks and to connect with other people out there in the world, that's also going to bring more business your way, but it's important that you connect with others, and that's why we have the EFTAP group and community as well. Because you can feel like
what a fantastic resource to get up, because this can be a very lonely business. I mean, my friends are around the world. None of them live in my neighborhood. I mean, I have friends in the neighborhood, but I mean, but my, you know, the people who think like I think and do what I do.
Yeah.
So, you know, there are very few people that I know of who do EFT right in my immediate area. So yeah, that's again just a great opportunity that you have with EFTAP, is to you know, to be able to sit down and you know, have some real FaceTime with you know, with somebody who is going through, who's doing what you do, who goes through what you go through, and you know, can relate on a level that most of the other people in our lives can't.
And for support wise too, you know, we often, well, we do now at the start of each meeting, we tap for whatever's coming up for people, or if there's an EFTAP member that's going through something. Yeah, and I think that's really important, that people are supported in their business or feel supported. But I noticed that, like me, you had a regular job when you started, and you were doing this as your hobby, your fun thing, but more and more it became your one and only. And I think sometimes people, when they first get into EFT, they're, yes, this is what I love, and they quit their job and they think they're going to make all their money, and it's like, no, it's so fine to gradually move into it, and still have your plan A job, your muggle job, and then move into tapping as you can. Let one go and move into one more. And I think sometimes people feel,
your muggle job, I love that.
I know.
Until you're ready to be a wizard.
I know.
I have my little plaque with all of my Harry Potter.
I worked with a child once.
That's great advice, Jenny. That's so true. Is to you know, take care of your needs so that you're not desperate, because if you get to a place of feeling desperate, sometimes that'll motivate people, but it tends to shut us down such that we can't see opportunities we don't think is, as we know, with stress, the prefrontal cortex shuts down. We don't think as clearly. We don't think as creatively. So.
And how long did it take you to go from, this is my hobby, I love it, into I'm full-time?
I'm probably a bad example. Well, only in that I was chronically under or unemployed for a long time. So I was, when I started doing hypnotherapy, I had a part-time job for a little while, and I probably jumped ship earlier than I should have. I made it very challenging for my wife. God love her. She, there have been very tough times for her in my deciding to tap on my face for a living. But spending Christmas and New Year's in Prague and Paris kind of makes up for it.
Yeah,
exactly.
There was definitely a light at the end of the tunnel, but so I had my when I moved up to Sacramento, let's see, it was about 4 years that I was working full time while building this. So I had already started an online presence selling audio recordings of tapping online for about 3 years before I left my my regular job. 2 or 3 years.
Yep.
So I already had built a platform. I already had something there, so that it wasn't like jumping out without jumping out of the plane and deciding, okay, I'll build the parachute on the way.
Yeah. So you built the foundation first.
Yeah. And I think that's such a great example, Brad, because I think too often, we see the shiny, object over here and another shiny object over here. And the reality is that you are building a business, and regardless of what the business is, there are, steps and processes to go through to actually build that foundation to grow. So I think often, I don't know why I'm using that word often, maybe just because I've heard the stories, but, people become quite disillusioned. In their mind, they're thinking this is going to happen and it's going to happen overnight. And then we lose a lot of really passionate people to back to full-time work, for example, because they have taken that leap too quickly.
And it can happen that way, but this is, we can look at it like with EFT. So people hear about the 1-minute wonders, and then they find out that those are few and far between for the most part, and go, oh, well, tapping doesn't work. No, it does work. It just doesn't always happen like that because we don't know what all is going on underneath there. So there are, various things that need to come into place when you're building a business such that you're supporting yourself full time doing it. So yeah, I don't know if there are very few cases of people who are really overnight successes. So people can look at my YouTube channel and go, wow, you have so many views, so many videos. Yeah, I've been doing it for 10 years.
Yeah.
I didn't get on YouTube last week.
Mm-hmm. And Brad, any hints or clues or bits of advice for how people introduce it to their partners, their family and friends? That's a tough
This
one.
is why you're supposed to give me the questions ahead of time. When I don't know. It's funny because when we introduce tapping to people, who are new to it, it's like, what? So I often say that I had gone to clown college, so when I learned tapping, it was not the strangest thing I'd ever done. And my wife had been with me when I went to clown college, so it was not the strangest thing she had seen me do. So she was, she married me as an actor, so she knew she was getting into. She kind of knew what she was getting into. But there's still plenty of people in my family. I've been doing this 18 years now, who kind of look askance. Okay, whatever. So it's funny because Christy will say, she says, it's frustrating because I never know what to say when people say, so what does your husband do for a living? And I always say to her, that's okay, because I don't really know how to answer that question. People say, what do you do? Well, 18 years into it, I'm still working on my elevator speech.
I think you always have to think about what does this person need to hear, or where are they coming from? If you're talking to a nurse, then you can give them some science, or say, have you ever had acupuncture? Well, this is acupuncture without the needles, give them a bit of science. Or if it's a teenager, it's completely different to how you would speak to them. But sometimes I think when it's someone close to us, we're a bit more defensive and trying to build it up to be even better. But
so I'm going to tell you about this thing. It's not crazy. It's not as crazy as it sounds. But the great thing, I'll tell you, one of the great things about making YouTube videos is it makes it a lot easier to explain. Because people, either they know what they've seen me do it, or I can just say to people, I make videos on YouTube. They can look it up if they want.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, here, watch what I do.
Let that describe it rather than me trying to.
Fantastic. I love that. And I think it's a great sort of a piece of advice for practitioners is if you're struggling with that, just direct them to a video that you've done, giving an explanation that you feel really confident about. Yeah. And also I think one of the things that Jenny, you were saying before as well, is that people come to see you, so they relate to you. You are actually what they're looking for in terms of a solution. So sometimes they don't care what the tools are. It's about them relating to you, feeling comfortable with you, and you being your authentic self. And that's what's going to attract people to you.
And them knowing that you're committed to them getting what they want, because ultimately people are interested in what it is they want. The tool is not so important. So it's like if they feel that you're genuinely interested in helping them get what they want, then you can come in and wave a wand, and it's like, hey, you know what? If it's going to help me get what I want, then
wave that wand. And I think also what people love about you and your videos is how authentic you are. And I know we had this discussion when we spent that day together, but you have a background and a foundation of landmark education, which I had also, which in the early days really got me started on what do I want to do and who do I want to be in the world and who am I authentically. And so, you know, sometimes it's not just tapping, but finding other things out there to look at who am I really and why am I on this earth, who am I spiritually, who am I as a human being, and what kind of difference do I want to make in the world.
Absolutely. You know, if it's EFT is an instrument. It's like you could take a piano, but no two people play the piano the same way. You know, so that's why we will listen to a Vladimir Horowitz or a Liberace or whoever else, you know, you might listen to, because they bring their own thing. And so, yeah, I remember even before I learned tapping, when I was learning hypnotherapy, and I had already started going through Landmark and meeting another hypnotherapist who'd gone through it. And I said, do you use your Landmark training, your hypnotherapy? She's like, how can I not? You know, I just watched went through a Bob Proctor seminar over the weekend, you know, always learning, always taking in new information. And all of the stuff that I learned through Gary Craig, but also through Bob Proctor or Jack Canfield or Landmark or whatever it is, all of those inform what comes out of my mouth while I'm tapping.
Yeah.
And, you know, in our various interests and clown college, you know, whatever it might be, it all, so for each of us, there is an audience that is going to relate to, you know, what we bring to it is going to be just right for them. It's going to resonate with them in a way that, you know, some clown in California isn't going to relate to them.
Yeah. Well, it's obvious that a lot of people relate to you, and thank you for who you are and your authenticity. And thank you so much for speaking to us again today. And we really look forward to your Perth, Adelaide, Cairns, Brisbane, Melbourne, Sydney, starting off with Byron Bay, your Wellwood tour with Ben Lee and Jesse
Reimers.
Wow. So, and that's all on your Tap with Brad?
Tapwithbrad.com, and then just click the events page and you'll see that on there.
And you have many programs. You just mentioned one that's starting again, the Money
Magnet Mindset.
Oh, awesome. So that starts soon?
That's running all the way through March. Yeah.
Okay. Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Brad, for who you are and for chatting with us again.
Oh, my pleasure. It's great to talk to you again.
And we look forward
to Brad.
Seeing you soon. Well, at the end of the year.
Yeah.
Thanks, Brad.
Take care. Thanks, Brad. Bye.
Thank you very much. Bye.